Welcome everyone. My name is Nikos, aka Sephir, and this is Out of the Box, EDH. This week, another Legends from Final Fantasy has been spoiled. That is Celes, Rune Knight from Final Fantasy VI, which, as I have said in my previous video about Final Fantasy Commanders, is my favorite one. So, let's see what Celes does and what kind of deck we can build with her. Mardu colors, 4 CMC, 4/4 Human Wizard Knight. When Celes enters, discard any number of cards, then draw that many cards plus 1. Whenever one or more other creatures you control enter, if one or more of them entered from a graveyard or was cast from a graveyard, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. I like her a lot. There are many things going on with her that we can build around. She has an ETB, she draws cards, she discards cards, she incentivizes playing cards from the graveyard, and she puts counters on creatures. The way I would choose to build her is using her as a payoff, not as the actual engine of the deck. She is indeed an excellent payoff for playing creatures from the graveyard, and also she is a knight. That means that we are playing a deck with a secret commander, and that secret commander is Haakon, Stromgald Scourge. If we have Haakon in play and use a knight tribal aristocrats theme, we can buff our army with Celes extremely fast. Furthermore, Celes' ETB ability can be used to fill our graveyard with more knights to cast through Haakon, and even discard Haakon himself if we happen to have him in our hand. Finally, if we run out of gas at whatever point, it will be easy to sacrifice Celes in one of our numerous sacrifice engines, and then recast her with Haakon to trigger her ETB again. So, let's see what cards we need to make this work. First of all, since Haakon is of such importance to the deck to make it work, let's start with ways to find Haakon. Fortunately, there are many great tutors in our colors. Entomb and Buried Alive can put him straight into our graveyard to cast him. Gamble, Diabolic Intent, and Insatiable Avarice can put him to our hand, and then we can easily discard him with Celes into our graveyard. While Pyre of Heroes can put him straight into play with the minimum cost of sacrificing a knight that we can easily replay from our graveyard when Haakon enters. Obviously, things like Vampiric and Diabolic Tutor exist, and they are certainly upgrades, but I will try to use as few game changers as possible. I will also abstain from using non-knight creatures in the list, but both Auric Loremage, Violent Doombear, and Gravebreaker Lamia are all great for whoever doesn't want to have that restriction. Next, let's move to our ramp package. This is really easy. We obviously add the standards Sol Ring, Arcane Signet, all 3 Talisman, and all 3 Signets. Then, since we are on a tribal theme, we can add the fairly new Patchwork Banner. And also Knight of the White Orchid, that is, well, a knight. Finally, a pet card of mine that I run in many of my non-green decks is Oath of Lieges, which basically makes everyone but the person with the most lands in play search for a basic land and put it in play every turn. It is secretly an anti-green deck, allowing everyone to catch up to the overly enthusiastic ramp opponents. Now let's move to our sack engines. It is important to be free so that we can use them anytime, not only to abuse Haakon as much as possible by constantly replaying knights to trigger various ETBs, including the Celes one, but also to be able to save Haakon from any possible targeted exile effects. Fanatical Devotion and Martyr's Cause are both excellent. We can use Asnod's Altar, or even better, a Phyrexian Altar. But a warning here, it is really easy with that to create a 4-card infinite. Having Haakon in play, a 1 CMC Knight, the Altar, and whatever payoff. Still, An easy-to-disrupt 4-card winning combo is considered fair in most tables. Bartolome del Presidio is a cheap knight that is also a free sack outlet, so he comes in. Finally, Goblin Bombardment or Blasting Station should also be taken into consideration for a spot. We continue with some card advantage options. While our commander can work as a card advantage engine alongside Hakon, since we actually play what we discard, we want some more options. Black Market Connections works not only as a card advantage tool, but it can also provide us with a knight each turn. Pact of the Serpent is a solid one-time option. Stormfist Crusader is a cheap CMC knight that draws cards, while both Midnight Reaper and Liliana's Standard Bearer can abuse the number of creatures we sacrifice and replay from our graveyard. Teves Zad, Tomb of Fools, might be a little expensive CMC-wise, but he is an excellent payoff and can work as a sacrifice engine once per turn. Finally, no sacrifice theme is complete without the all-star that is named Skullclamp. Since we are playing Knight Tribal, we will need knights. It is better if our knights are cheap to cast to abuse Hakon's ability of recasting them as much as possible, so that Celes, or any other creature we have that triggers whenever we sacrifice and replay stuff, will get activated as much as possible. So, things like Dauntless Bodyguard or Rohirrim Lancer are great. We can add things like Knight of the Ebon Legion and Forsworn Paladin, while a couple of really small changelings like Changeling Outcast and Universal Automaton make them the perfect meat to sacrifice and recast from our graveyard. Then we have things like Corpse Knight, Breathless Knight, Basri's Lieutenant, and Sir Conrad, all knights that can get abused from our engine if the Celes buff is not enough. Worthy Knight can create a board really fast, while Olivia, Mobilized for War, fits the theme like a glove, since she can discard knights, gives counters to creatures, and also haste. Phyrexian Crusader and Strike Force can be really big beaters and kill really fast if they get buffed, while White Orchid Phantom can work as a land distraction tool, or even as a ramp for ourselves, if we happen to hit our flagstones of Trokair. A couple of other knights can be added, like Triumphant Adventurer, an excellent attacker that provides card advantage, Elenda the Dusk Rose, that gets big really fast, the Good Stuff Battle Angels of Tyr, and Cavalier of Night, that has triple duty as a one-time sack outlet, reanimation tool, and spot removal. To protect our plan, we have Knight Exemplar, that gives indestructibility to our board, Guardian of Faith, to phase out our stuff, and Werfox Bodyguard as a one-time flickering effect, though it is obviously replayable with Hakon at flash speed as well, whenever we decide to sacrifice it. I add Tibald's Trickery as a general answer to almost all my non-blue decks with red, and this is no exception. Teferi's Protection and Clever Concealment are obviously the top tier protection options, and if you have them, you use them. Dawn's Truce is our final protection piece, granting not only hexproof and indestructible to our board, but also hexproof to ourselves, something very important to counter an opponent's Bojuka Bog, for example. We can add a few more tribal matter stuff, like Patriarch's Bidding as a mass reanimation option, Cover of Darkness to make sure our buffed creatures can connect, while Shared Animosity makes the kill even easier. Finally, Akroma's Will has double duty as both finisher and protection spell for our board. As far as spot removals go, the best options are Nameless Inversion and Crib Swap, since they are also night spells and can get recasted from our graveyard with Hakon as much as we like, as long as we have the mana for it. But Sephir, I hear you ask, what happens if somehow Hakon gets exiled? Thankfully, the deck has enough tutors to find our secret tech, Pull from Eternity. We can bring Hakon back from exile to our graveyard, ready to recast him. All this gives us about 32 spots to work our land base, more than enough for a deck with such a low mana curve. Obviously the staples Command Tower and Exotic Orchard are in, as well as Plaza of Heroes and Phyrexian Tower. We will use all 3 Shocklands, all 3 Fetchlands, and all 3 Surveillands, which are even better in this list than usual. Path of Ancestry and Savai Triome are also included, as well as the 3 Filterlands, Flagstones of Trocire, and, if you can afford it, a Cavern of Souls. The rest of the spots are taken by basic lands, more than enough to not miss any Oath of Legis trigger or be able to abuse Knight of the White Orchid consistently. So, this is my take on Celes, Rune Knight. I think it is a unique and very enjoyable one. I will leave the link for the list in my description, and if you like it, then come and see the rest of our lists in my Discord. See you around! Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.